AngelinaLiTV explains a small portion of my own personal backstory. Being a survivor, I do understand something most situations didn't. Being ignored is its own kind of violence. So I'm building something different. Not a campaign, a system. At first it was simple, realizing how agencies and people who allege that they help people in distress or who have gone through unspeakable things portray to help when it's just systematically another shutdown, disappointment, letdown, or form of control that puts the person in a worse space than they started out. A phone line that always got answered. A database tracking cases, families said were forgotten. But this is all for monetary gain, and it is misappropriation of funds. Agencies tapping into people's lives, stirring things up and letting them down without proper placement, without proper care. Just paid employees who really do not care about what the children and the people that have undergone certain critical situations have survived from. A small network of volunteers who show up, some even to court dates, to police stations, to homes where people were too afraid to speak alone. They didn't promise justice. They promised presence. And that changed everything. Take note that the presence is usually judgmental and another way and a form to control. Within the year, patterns started emerging. I've seen the same mannerisms and behaviors from different agencies. Some practices completely illegal, in which it was time to speak up about. At the time, I was not aware that I had a strong voice like I do now, and I had to bring attention to the situation to cause awareness for it to be investigated properly, for those places to be shut down. Entire clusters of cases stalled at the same stage, reports mishandled, even evidence untested, which I can relate to. People creating false narratives to control stories, having connections within their towns with people of power, even people that are sports players or in the industry, covering up and trying to silence people whose voices that they think are smaller. Me and my team have realized something that is very important. This wasn't just about individual failures. It was systematic. And the system don't change unless someone forces them to. So they did 3 things. They documented everything, not emotionally, factually. Dates, names, timelines, missing procedures. They turned pain into data, because data demands attention in ways stories alone sometimes can't. They built alliances. They reached out to local journalists, legal aid groups, social workers, ethical officers inside of departments. Not everyone said yes, but if you keep trying, enough will. And slowly, silence became harder to maintain. But we keep moving forward. So now we're at the point where we show up publicly, not with outrage, but with evidence. City council meetings, public forums, budget hearings, asking simple yet unavoidable questions. Where did the funding go? Why were cases unprocessed? What accountability exists for inaction? And when officials didn't answer, and agencies have no real reason and logic to where they have poor treatment towards people who have survived, and they want people to come back again and again and again so that they can maintain an hourly or salary wage at the expense and at the cost of someone's demise, their hurt, their pain, their fear, their unresolved, the inconsistencies continue to become a serious pattern that we are noticing, taking light to, and exposing. Families once felt isolated started finding each other. So here with AngelinaLiTV, we are creating a network so that women, children, and families can comment, share their stories and experiences, especially with agencies, and what caused you to get in the situation, or someone you trusted and you were hurt in the process. We are creating a safe space here for you not only to be heard, but for some action to be taken and someone can do something real about it. We understand that you don't have the common know-how of getting out of a situation that you did not ask to be put into. Mothers who think that they're alone and have identical stories. Teenagers who stop speaking but need to contribute to the call out and exposing people at certain places doing certain things that are not or in alignment with your good judgment and the law. Sometimes these teenagers will step up and volunteer, and sometimes women who have survived will also. We are looking for that type of energy with AngelinaLiTV. People who have been treated like statistics. We want to become a community. And a community is harder to ignore than just individuals. And that's why this space has been created. And we would like for you to not only subscribe, like, and share, but more importantly, we want to hear from you, your experiences. What happened if there was a resolve? Eventually, pressure can build so that an internal review can be launched. Backlog cases can be reopened. Funding audits are and will be demanded. It wasn't perfect. It wasn't fast. But this is a movement. We have to start today. So I'm asking you again, not only to like and subscribe, but to share. Also, making yourself known. Let's create awareness. We know what they have done, and it will be impossible for them to forget with a movement with this kind of magnitude and energy because of people like you. So we look forward to hearing from you. Leave your comments below. Change like this does not come from one law or one speech. It comes from coordinated, persistent pressure and structure. Here's what actually works in the real quote-unquote world. Number one, build independent tracking systems. Many failures happen because no one is tracking outcomes. What helps? Community-run case tracking databases, public dashboards, even simple ones. Freedom of Information Act, FOIA request. Why it matters? Systems can ignore individuals, but not patterns. So let's move forward with sharing and leaving your comments to see what we can do to help and resolve. 2, demanding transparency in funding. A major issue that I mentioned earlier is real. Agencies receiving funding but not delivering results. So we are pushing for public audits of grant-funded programs in your city, in your town. So we would like for you to leave your comments below and your stories about these agencies. Clear reporting requirements tied to outcomes, not just activity. We want to see and know actual results that came from quote-unquote assistance through agencies counseling and government funding being released to these energies. Community oversight boards. The goal, money should follow results, not just promises. So while these people are trying to counsel people, give them therapy, medication, leave them displaced without proper housing, but these people go on to become funded with limited or no proper, and I do stress the word proper, not just resale shops, not just a little bit of grant money helping a small amount of people in the community that they pick through. People actually coming together to help people without judgment is necessary as well. Instead of more quote-unquote laws, broadly focus on enforceable accountability. Well, these mechanisms such as mandatory timelines for processing evidence, Penalties for unjustified case neglect, which is very big for these agencies. They should be fined and penalized for unjustified cases, things that they have thrown out, people that they have neglected yet receive funding for. Victim notification requirements, and allowing the victims to have a way to have a grievance or complaint form to speak up through the state, through the agency, would be more formidable, because that's the people that they're serving and receiving income for, even through grant. They should be able to have a voice and let people know what is going on, is the bigger picture. Independent reviews outside of police departments and making logs and keeping track of these things. Laws only work if someone is required to answer for breaking them. When these people are not answering for breaking the law and the misappropriation and misuse of funding. Create a real safe space, not just labeled. SA survivors, domestic violence survivors, children, minorities. Not just labels. We need a real safe place. And it isn't a building, it is a system of support. Effective models include 24/7 response lines staffed by trained advocates, not volunteers, and people who are counseling, psychiatrists, or just who feel like that they need a spot in an agency without the proper training of care, nurturing, empathy, and sympathy for the people that they talk to. Doesn't matter if you have a college degree or not. When you lack the special skills that it takes to help a surviving family, women and children alike. Legal plus emotional support at that agency in one place. People who physically go with the victims to appointments. As well, and this is the most important thing that I stress, long-term follow-up, not just a crisis response. People are not just labels, names, stories written down with pieces of paper and pen. These people need long-term care, and it does not need to benefit just the agencies. So long-term follow-up, we want to know what happened 1, 2, 3, 5 years after, not just crisis response, not just with temporary shelters, timelines that run out, and no real change made. Organize communities, not just campaigns. Awareness fades, structure lasts. So what we are focusing on is local volunteer networks, survival-led leadership, which means that a survivor, a person who has actually went through this, these people need to be trained properly, yet they need to be positioned in places of roles of leadership, mixed in with the professionals. This may work, but they actually need people who have lived through this so they can have the proper knowledge and care instead of just reading things on paper, reading things out of books. Regular public meetings, partnership with professionals, lawyers, therapists, journalists, all as a whole to make one agency strong. But we have to use data plus stories together. So we're trying to create this safe space to where an agency can be built, and then more of the same type of agency can come up with the proper structure. Stories create empathy, data creates pressure. We need both. That's what we are working to attain with AngelinaLiTV and receiving this knowledge and information so that we can incorporate everything together and make something more long-lasting, stronger with real results. Call it into action. So for our foundation, we are building and supporting an honest way to ask and seek help. We are not here to create noise. We are here to create accountability. Every day, families report crimes and never hear back. Every year, funding is distributed, but outcomes remain unclear. Too many people fall through the cracks, and I was one of them. You may be one of them. Not because help doesn't exist, but because systems aren't being held accountable, mainly agencies. We are building something different. A real-time tracking systems for overlooked cases, direct support networks for families navigating the system, independent oversight that follows the money and the outcomes, community-based advocacy that ensures no case is quietly ignored. But can we do this alone? We can stand together, and let's start today. We will need and do need donations to fund the case tracking, legal support, and outreach. Volunteers willing to show up and stand with families. Professionals who actually can lend expertise, legal, medical, and investigate. Voices willing to demand transparency and change. This is what we need. This is what we want. And we are counting on you to stand up and help us reach this goal. This is not about replacing the system. This is about making sure that it works. Because justice shouldn't depend on how loud you can shout. It should be guaranteed. If you want to turn this into a speech, a nonprofit mission statement on social media campaigns, or a real step-by-step plan to start your foundation locally, just tell me. Let's work and let's move forward so we can attain change in real time together. This is Angelina sharing on AngelinaLiTV. Thank you.